Hey everybody, David Andrews here. It is day 3 and we're talking about breath, the third habit in our series on the 10 healthy habits of high energy living. And I'm out here again this morning catching a beautiful sunrise. Thought I would just give you a quick look there. Sun's up pretty good, lake is very calm. And one of the most important things about breathing that most people I mentioned in the first video breathe unconsciously all day long, every day, year after year. And so it can be difficult to really capture the power of the breath, the air, the oxygen, and the prana. So one thing to consider is when you become more conscious, what type of a breather are you? And something that you can also, help your children learn to do. Sometimes children get in a bad habit, and that is, are you a nose breather or a mouth breather? And so a lot of science has been, produced in studies and different benefits showing that nasal breathing, nose breathing, is definitely more beneficial. And some of the reasons are obviously the nasal passageway has all sorts of moisturizing and filtering mechanisms, so that the air coming through our nose is more available to our cells, if you will, the oxygen, because it's getting rid of some of the pollutants, some of the contaminants and things in the air. So many times people become unconscious of their breath and they end up becoming a mouth breather. So they're just unconsciously breathing through their mouth during the day without really realizing it. And this can be extremely detrimental to one's health over time. For years and years and years of mouth breathing can be very detrimental. So one of the things when we talk about conscious breathing is start to think about and be sure that you are nasal breathing all throughout the day. So that takes a little bit of awareness and a little bit of consciousness. And even exercising, most times once we get out of breath, of course, we switch to mouth breathing to get in more oxygen. But there's actually research that shows if we gradually work up our workout routines and we run or either do other exercises, as long as it's not too taxing, we actually need the oxygen to keep from passing out. But nasal breathing, even in the form of exercise, can really help build long-term endurance, strength, stamina, etc. And another thing to think about when you're nasal breathing is, where is the air going when you breathe it in? So many people breathe just up in the upper area of their chest. And you can see their body kind of raise up, their shoulders, their chest actually raises up. So they're kind of taking those short, labored sort of breaths, and they're breathing only from the upper thoracic cavity, instead of pushing the air or allowing the air just to go down deeper into the lower thoracic cavity, where the lungs fill up from the bottom up. And it looks like, we call it belly breathing, right? It looks like our belly is actually expanding and filling with air, but it's simply the diaphragm pushing down, making room for more air to come in, and that expands the belly out. So one of the terms is called belly breathing. So if you think about it and you're becoming more conscious of your breath, you can simply expand the belly out when you breathe in, and then bring the belly back in when you breathe out. And one simple way to do that is just put your hand, on your belly. I'm exaggerating a little bit so you can see that on the video, but thinking and becoming conscious of belly breathing. So now you're using your diaphragm. You're using your diaphragm to push the air down to the lower part of the lungs, which actually expands the belly out. And you can do this and be conscious of this. Is really cool, because when you really get aware, you can actually breathe and push out each side. So you can push out on the left side, push out on the right side, push out on the back, push out on the front. So belly breathing really should be not just the belly, it's really all around your entire midsection. So your diaphragm is this huge muscle inside your body that's able to push downward to make room for the oxygen in the air to come and fill your lungs. So if you're breathing into that lower part of your lungs and you're expanding your entire waist section, so you can actually feel your back expand, you can feel your sides expand, you can feel your belly expand. So when you think about conscious breathing and you think about what type of breathing you want, nasal breathing, you want generally slow, fewer breaths, longer breaths, and you want to be pushing that air as low down into the lungs as possible. Then you're using your diaphragm. Now that diaphragm muscle can be strengthened through this belly breathing technique, and it just helps all of your organs to be healthier, helps all of your cells to get more oxygen, and truly becomes a much more calming, centering type of breath, so that people who suffer from anxiety, depression, or other mood challenges, that upper shallow breathing is really going to make that worse. It's going to affect that. And if the breath can come down and be more into the lower region of the lungs by expanding the midsection of the body, then the power is really being taken up. So basically, that's the simple technique for today, is as you're becoming more conscious of your breath, is simply to be more aware of pushing your diaphragm down on all throughout the day when you're breathing. Remember the nasal breath, and remember to basically belly breathe, although it's not just the belly, it's the entire midsection of your body. By pushing your diaphragm down, you're expanding the lung capacity and the ability to bring in, more oxygen. So we're going to talk a lot more about oxygen too in a future session, but for today, just wanted to share that idea just in case there's anyone you know, or maybe your child that you see them walking around with their mouth open, and they've fallen into a habit, maybe sometime around age 10 to 15, in that preteen or teenage years. It can happen to people without them even knowing it, and then they develop a lifelong habit. So very, very important to be a nasal breather and to use your diaphragm to bring that air in as low as possible in your lungs. Fill your lungs, get maximum capacity of energy. And when you do, you're just gonna feel fantastic and have more energy. That's the whole point, is having more energy through using the breath to gain that energy.